Minnesota, often called the land of 10,000 lakes, is a state renowned for its natural beauty, vibrant communities, and a long-standing reputation for progressive values and civic engagement. From the bustling streets of Minneapolis to the serene shores of its countless lakes, Minnesota has always prided itself on being a place where neighbors look out for one another and public trust runs deep. But beneath this image of unity and integrity, a shocking scandal has emerged, one that has shaken the very core of the state's identity and left residents questioning how such a betrayal could happen here. A staggering fraud has rocked Minnesota, sending shockwaves through communities and making national headlines. The revelation of this crime has left many Minnesotans feeling blindsided, as the foundation of public trust has been deeply undermined. At the heart of the scandal is the theft of hundreds of millions of dollars, money that was supposed to provide meals for vulnerable children during the pandemic. Instead, these vital funds were siphoned away in what has become one of the largest social services frauds in U.S. history, leaving countless children without the support they desperately needed. The scheme revolved around Feeding Our Future, a non-profit organization that was trusted to distribute food aid, and a network of Somali-run businesses. Together they exploited pandemic-era child nutrition programs, taking advantage of emergency government funding meant to help families in crisis. What began as an effort to address hunger during unprecedented times was twisted into an elaborate operation of deception and greed. Instead of nourishing children, the stolen money was used to purchase luxury cars, expensive jewelry, and lavish real estate. The scale of the fraud was breathtaking, with ill-gotten gains flaunted in plain sight while those in need were left behind. This story is more than just a local crime, it's a national warning about the dangers of weak government oversight and the ways in which good intentions can be manipulated for personal gain. It raises uncomfortable questions about accountability, transparency, and the systems we trust to protect our most vulnerable citizens. In this series, we'll unravel how this unprecedented fraud was carried out, who the key players were, and the complex social dynamics that allowed it to flourish. Join us as we dig deep into the investigation, expose the truth, and explore the lessons Minnesota, and the nation, must learn to prevent such a betrayal from happening again. The fraud at the heart of the Feeding Our Future scandal was shockingly simple, yet devastatingly effective. It exploited a perfect storm of loosened regulations, urgent need, and overwhelmed oversight during the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, the federal government relaxed rules for child nutrition programs, hoping to get food to more children in need. This meant organizations could apply for and receive federal funds with far less scrutiny than before. Suddenly, paperwork that once required careful review was being rubber-stamped, and the door was wide open for abuse. Feeding Our Future, a non-profit that was supposed to help feed hungry kids, became a sponsor for dozens of food distribution sites. But many of these sites were nothing more than empty offices or fake businesses, fronts created solely to siphon off government money. The scheme relied on paperwork, mountains of it. Fake rosters were created, listing children who never received a single meal. Sometimes the names were generated by computer programs with no real children behind them. Meal counts were grossly inflated, and the numbers submitted to the government were pure fiction. Imagine a tiny storefront in a strip mall claiming to feed thousands of children every day. The reality: the doors were often locked and no food was ever served. Yet, on paper, these sites appeared to be bustling hubs of community service. Feeding Our Future took a percentage of the funds as a sponsor fee, then funneled the rest to these fake sites. The money moved quickly, passing through hands and accounts, making it harder to trace. In just 2 years, the amount of money claimed by Feeding Our Future and its partners exploded, from a few $1 million to nearly $200 million. The numbers were staggering, and they raised few red flags until it was too late. The stolen funds were laundered through shell companies, hidden in bank accounts, and spent on luxury cars, expensive homes, jewelry, and even overseas properties. The fraudsters lived lavishly while the children they claimed to help went hungry. At the center of it all was Amy Bach, the non-profit's director. Prosecutors say she orchestrated the entire operation, recruiting others to join in and helping them set up fake sites to maximize the take. Kickbacks were paid to keep people quiet. Documents were falsified to mislead investigators. When questions were asked, lies and cover stories were ready. The operation was as brazen as it was organized. In the end, the scheme's genius was its simplicity. Just claim to feed children who never showed up. It was a crime built on paperwork, enabled by trust, and fueled by greed. Political correctness, a concept meant to foster respect and inclusion, can sometimes have unintended consequences, especially when it comes to oversight and accountability in government programs. In this case, the fear of being labeled racist or discriminatory played a disturbing and powerful role in delaying any meaningful action against Feeding Our Future. When state officials began to question the legitimacy of Feeding Our Future's claims, they didn't just face routine pushback. Instead, they were immediately met with sharp accusations of discrimination and bias, which put them on the defensive. Amy Bach and her associates argued that their organization was being unfairly targeted, simply because it was minority-led and focused on serving immigrant communities. They framed the scrutiny as an attack on their identity and mission, rather than a legitimate investigation into their practices. This strategy proved remarkably effective. Officials, already wary of public backlash and the potential for their actions to be misinterpreted, hesitated to dig deeper. The fear of being accused of racism or cultural insensitivity made them second-guess their instincts and delay investigations that could have stopped the fraud sooner. When the state finally tried to halt payments to Feeding Our Future, Amy Bach responded by suing the state, alleging civil rights violations. This legal maneuver further complicated the situation, making officials even more cautious. A judge, not wanting to appear discriminatory or risk public outrage, ordered the payments to resume. This decision allowed the fraudulent operation to continue, funneling millions more in taxpayer dollars to the scammers, even as suspicions and evidence of wrongdoing mounted. The fear of false accusations of racism and the weaponization of identity politics effectively paralyzed oversight. Compliance officers and investigators, worried about their reputations and careers, hesitated to act decisively, allowing the theft to continue unchecked. This scandal is a stark reminder of how identity politics, when misused, can be turned into a shield for wrongdoing, making it harder for authorities to protect the public interest and hold bad actors accountable. Identity was used as a shield beyond just racism. Some fraudsters leveraged their status as Somali immigrants and Muslims to deflect suspicion, presenting themselves as trusted community leaders. They threatened protests and accused officials of bias, making it risky to challenge them. This manipulation exploited Minnesota's multicultural ideals, turning social justice language into a tool for personal gain. The tight-knit Somali community's internal loyalties made it hard for outsiders to detect fraud, or for insiders to speak up. Criminals come from all backgrounds. Shielding anyone from accountability only harms the honest majority. We must apply the same standards to everyone, regardless of identity. A shift from assimilation to multiculturalism has created isolated communities, making fraud harder to spot. Minnesota's Somali community, while supportive, can be insular. Information doesn't always reach authorities. The fraudsters exploited this, counting on silence from within and confusion from without. Assimilation isn't about erasing culture, but about shared civic values and open communication. When communities remain isolated, they're more vulnerable to exploitation by insiders. Government agencies, lacking cultural and language skills, struggle to monitor what's happening. The lesson integration and clear expectations are essential to prevent abuse. The Feeding Our Future scandal wasn't unique. Similar fraud plagued Minnesota's Medicaid autism therapy program. Autism diagnoses among Somali children spiked to improbable levels, yet little was done. Companies recruited families for fake diagnoses, billing Medicaid for services never provided. Critics raising concerns were silenced with accusations of racism, millions were lost, and children were harmed by misdiagnoses. The pattern-generous programs, weak oversight, and identity politics exploited for profit. The numbers are staggering. $250 million stolen, enough for 60 million meals. Over 70 people have been charged, making this one of the largest fraud cases in U.S. history. Defendants include Feeding Our Future's Amy Bach and dozens of operators and shell company owners. Charges range from wire fraud to money laundering. Many have pleaded guilty, revealing the scheme's inner workings. Authorities have seized assets, but most of the money is gone. Some fraudsters even mingled with politicians to gain legitimacy. This is a profound betrayal of public trust and a systemic failure of oversight. The prosecutions are a start, but the damage is done. It's vital to remember, the vast majority of Somali Minnesotans are innocent and hardworking. They too are victims. The stolen money was meant for their children. The community's tight-knit nature, while a strength, also allowed fraudsters to operate under the radar. Reporting insiders to authorities can feel like betrayal, creating a wall of silence. Honest leaders now face the challenge of confronting criminals while defending their community from unfair blame. The lesson: hold individuals accountable, not entire groups. Cultural dynamics can be exploited, so building trust between communities and law enforcement is crucial. Only then can future crimes be prevented. In response, Minnesota and federal authorities have launched massive investigations and prosecutions. The state is overhauling oversight, and Congress is demanding answers. The core question: how did the system fail so badly? Pandemic-era waivers and trust-based funding made fraud easy. The lesson: good intentions aren't enough. Robust oversight is essential. Officials must be empowered to investigate red flags without fear of political backlash. Equity means equal scrutiny, not negligence. Preventing another feeding our future requires a shift from simply distributing money to actively safeguarding it. We must welcome immigrants, but also expect civic integration and accountability. If we don't learn, this story will repeat, with taxpayers and the needy paying the price.